same energy. Work on being better when I'm 70. Your drip is just a water spring. You know I drip different, this is 7 seas. I deal with life different, make that lemon squeeze. On track, now we gon' way up. W's as easy as a layup. Working late, stay up. Counting all the way up. Counting blessings, yeah, you know we pray up. Pray up. On track, now we gon' way up. Now we gon' way up. Now we going. On track, now we gon' way up. Now we gon' way up. Now we going. Keep the same energy. Work on being better when I'm 70. Your drip is just a water spring. You know I drip different, this is 7 seas. I deal with life different, make that lemon squeeze. On track, now we gon' way up. W's as easy as a layup. Working late, stay up. Counting all the way up. Counting blessings, yeah, you know we pray up. Pray up. On track, now we gon' way up. Now we gon' way up. Now we going. On track, now we gon' way up. Now we gon' way up. Now we going. Keep the same energy. Work on being better when I'm 70. Your drip is just a water spring. You know I drip different, this is 7 seas. I deal with life different, make that lemon squeeze. On track, now we gon' way up. W's as easy as a layup. Working late, stay up. Counting all the way up. Counting blessings, yeah, you know we pray up. Pray up. On track, now we gon' way up. Now we gon' way up. Now we going. On track, now we gon' way up. Now we gon' way up. Now we going. Keep the same energy. Work on being better when I'm 70. Your drip is just a water spring. You know I drip different, this is 7 seas. I deal with life different, make that lemon squeeze. On track, now we gon' way up. W's as easy as a layup. Working late, stay up. Counting all the way up. Counting blessings, yeah, you know we pray up. Pray up. On track, now we gon' way up. Now we gon' way up. Now we going. On track, now we gon' way up. Now we gon' way up. Now we going. Keep the same energy. Work on being better when I'm 70. Your drip is just a water spring. You know I drip different, this is 7 seas. I deal with life different, make that lemon squeeze. On track, now we gon' way up. W's as easy as a layup. Working late, stay up. Counting all the way up. Counting blessings, yeah, you know we pray up. Pray up. On track, now we gon' way up. Now we gon' way up. Now we going. On track, now we gon' way up. Now we gon' way up. Now we going. Keep the same energy. Work on being better when I'm 70. Your drip is just a water spring. You know I drip different, this is 7 seas. I deal with life different, make that lemon squeeze. On track, now we gon' way up. W's as easy as a layup. Working late, stay up. Counting all the way up. Counting blessings, yeah, you know we pray up. Pray up. On track, now we gon' way up. Now we gon' way up. Now we going. On track, now we gon' way up. Now we gon' way up. Now we going. Keep the same energy. Work on being better when I'm 70. Your drip is just a water spring. You know I drip different, this is 7 seas. I deal with a life different, make that lemon squeeze.
Well, hello, everybody. Hello. Um, and say hello to my beautiful co-host, Miss Simone Fears. Um, I want to tell everybody thank
Hello.
you for tuning in today. It's been a rough day, to say the least, but you know what? The show must go on. Um, it's been a rough, 2 weeks, shall I say? Simone, can you hear me okay?
I can. I'm
I
trying to
can.
turn off
I
the
can't hear
feedback.
you.
Okay.
You're on mute. That's okay. That's all right.
No, can you
Before
hear
we
me
get
well?
started, I just want to thank some people. I want to thank everybody that came out to um, the homegoing of my brother Gary. That's why it's been such a tough. That's why it's been such a tough week. It's been actually a tough 2 weeks. Um, and I just want to kind of thank some people along the way. I want to thank the class of 93, the Pentecostal Mission family, Cornenago, Ladicia Scott, the Ingalls family, the New Big Spring family, the Taylor family, and the Ponder family for all of their flowers. I do want to thank everybody that came out, that just poured into us and sent their condolences, that called, that text us, all of that. Special shout out to a couple of our home friends. I'm not sure if they're listening. Chris and Alan, they came out like just about every time we opened the doors, and I want to thank them, Dale. Um, just for being there for us in our time of need, because it's really been a tough. It's really been a tough time. I want to also introduce my lovely co-host. I think she might be having some technical difficulties over there. Simone, are
Can
you
you
with
hear
us?
me? I'm
Mm-mm.
here. Can you see me? Can you hear
Hold on, let
me?
me see what's going on with your
Oh no.
mic. I want to make sure that it's not on my side. Nope, it's not on my
Can you
side.
hear me?
I can't hear you.
No. Can you
All
see
right.
me?
Nope, I can't hear you.
Oh, oh my gosh.
See,
I
that's
don't know.
okay. When it's live, you have those troubles. So while she's getting her mic together and getting herself set up, I do want to touch on. I want to still touch on the topic that we was touching on back in July, even though this is August, and it was um, National Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, and I wanted to finish off July with that topic. Unfortunately, life happened, and again, excuse me, and again, I couldn't, so I had to push it off. Actually, I pushed it off twice. So we're going to continue to kind of dive into that. And before we do that, again, I'm going to let my guest co-host get her audio together, because, like I said, when it's live radio, you never know what's going to happen. I've been in radio for a while, so unfortunately, that's just how it is. Um, but I do. I want to send my condolences also to the Walker family. Another classmate of ours passed away, unfortunately, here not too long ago. Maybe I think it might have been yesterday or the day before. I want to send my condolences out to the Walker family. Such a tragic moment, and I do want to say that you have to love on people um, while you can. So, because you just never know. And unfortunately, Fred buried his father on the 15th, and then tragedy struck, and he's no longer with us either. So I do want to send my condolences out to Fred, and hopefully, they can find some solace and some peace within what they're dealing with. Because trust me, I do know um, how that feels. Again, I want to see if my lovely co-host
Can you
is
hear
ready
me?
right there.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Maybe not. Okay. Well, it's okay. Once she comes back in and she gets her audio together, we're gonna introduce her so that she can tell a little bit about what she does and what she brings to the table as far as um, I still can't hear you, Simone. Let's see. Simone, this is what I'm gonna do. Why don't you go out and then come back in and see if that fixes things? Because sometimes that does it. So go all the way out. There you go. And then come back in, and then sometimes that fixes everything. Um, while she's doing that, I do want to touch on. Um, I do want to touch on mental health in our Black men, and how that affects our Black men in dealing with mental health. Because a lot of times our Black men, they don't. We touched on a little bit on the first episode, but we didn't really hone in on it like I would have wanted to. Let's
Can you
see.
hear me?
No, we still can't hear you, Miss Simone.
What is
I don't know what's going
happening?
on. Let's see here. Let me make sure it's just not on my end. So, guys, give us a moment. Audio here. Bear with us for just a moment. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm not sure. So we're gonna let Simone work on that. No worries. Live radio, that's what you do when you're live. But I do want to touch on some topics. One being um, one being let's see, one being, like I said, our Black men, and why they don't get the help that they need. And it's kind of taboo, especially within the Black community. Shout out to Ezzy. Hey, Ezzy, I see you. Shout out to Jamie J. Um, so you guys could hear her. I just couldn't hear her. Okay, it's on my end. Thank you, Ezzy. Hey, he's one of the best that taught me. Simone, if you can hear me, come on back on. It's on my side. I think I do know what's going on. So come on back. Bear with me just a moment. It's on my side. So we're gonna work through it. Okay. So once Simone comes back in, hold on, let me see if that's her. Simone, are you there? I think it's
I
on
am
my side. I
here.
apologize, guys. Let me do something else here. Simone, say something.
I can hear you.
It's on my side. Look at that. It's user error. Hey, second show. Sorry about that, guys.
Okay.
All right, Simone, I can hear you now, and they can hear you too.
That's amazing. So now you can hear me. Can you see me? Because I can't see myself. But if you can see me, that's fine.
Yes.
Okay.
I can't see you, but we would love to see your beautiful face. But it's okay. We're gonna work through this.
We're gonna move
thing
through
today.
it.
We're gonna get through it. The devil has been busy today, but he
Well,
is
we
alive.
won't let him
Okay?
win.
He's alive. So Simone, just let the people know, who you are, what you do, and so they can get a feel of who you are.
Okay, so while we continue to work on these technical difficulties, I do apologize. But hi everybody, my name is Simone, and I am currently in the field. I am in the mental health field. I'm currently working as a case manager. And as of recently, I have started my own life coaching business. I am a certified life coach. But going back to what I do for my 9 to 5, I work as a case manager at a women's treatment program where we service women who are struggling with alcohol and drug addiction. Every single day, we get people in, women in, who are mandated by the court system, whether it be DFAC or criminal court. Or sometimes we get women in that call for themselves. Nobody has made them come. They just need help. They know they need help, so they call in, and we get them into our services. And we service women who are struggling with anything from alcohol to any substance that you can think of: marijuana, crack cocaine, fentanyl, any opioid addictions. That's what we do on a daily, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. That's what I
Wow. Okay.
service those clients.
So let me ask you this, Simone. What inspired you to go into this field of work?
So, I will start from 2009 when I graduated high school. It was not my intention to go into the mental health field at all. I actually wanted to go into the field. I wanted to be a doctor, a pediatrician to be specific. It wasn't until I took a class, maybe in 2010 or maybe 2011. I took a class. It was a sociology class, and I fell in love with the study of people from that moment. And so I switched my major. My major was biology at first, initially, and then I switched my major to sociology. And from there, I knew I was going to get my master's once I graduated from the amazing Savannah State University. I knew I would go and get my master's, but specifically, I went and got my master's in clinical counseling psychology.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. So in dealing with that, I'm going to veer off course a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
In dealing with that on a day-to-day basis, how does it affect your mental health?
Ooh, that's a good question. I am in the field that I work, my 9 to 5, it affects it a lot. I always encourage people, especially us that work in the mental health field, therapists, whether you're a therapist or a case manager, psychiatrist, whomever, you need your own therapist. And I am one of those people who's very vocal about having my own therapist, because you hear so many stories that, and so most of these women have gone through so much. They're survivors. So they have had to go through the traumas of life, whatever that may be. The worst you can think of, they've gone through. And so I found myself at some point feeling very down and out. And I knew that I needed to talk to somebody, because I was having what they call like vicarious trauma, which is that trauma being transferred from one person to another. And so, if you've ever spoken to somebody who's gone through very traumatic, and you start feeling the effects of what they are currently experiencing, that's what that is. So think about, 25 women, because I do one-on-ones with them. So I see them individual therapy providing therapy to them. So you think about, you're seeing these women every single week, and they're telling you their deepest and darkest. That has to affect you in some type.
Yes.
2.5 years, I have my therapist, and just for work. It's for a lot of different things, but specifically so that I can really work on getting over that hump of what I was experiencing with my clients. It's been very helpful.
I'm sure. Like they say, the therapists need a therapist, right?
Absolutely.
The minister need a minister. Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So speak on women who who struggle day to day. Touch on that a little bit. Touch on that. What does that look like? Let's talk about that.
So we want to touch on the women who are struggling with addiction from day to day, or just struggle in general.
However you want to unpack that. I want to hear that.
So let me say this, my experience in women struggling with mental health, and let me start by saying this: health does not have to look like the person on the street who's talking to himself or herself. So I do want to say that, because I think a lot of times people will think that that's just what mental health is. Everybody struggles with some form of mental health. When we go through grief, that's mental health. When we're grieving, or when we're feeling sad because we've lost a job, or we want a job that we have not been able to get, or when we're feeling anxious around certain people, or feeling as if or we're experiencing some type of anxiety for whatever reason. These are signs of mental health struggles. It doesn't have to be you're down deep and out. It can just be simple things that happen to us on a daily. And so women, more specifically, we struggle with mental health because in life, we have to most of the time carry a large load, taking care of families, cooking and cleaning, and also working. In 2023, women have to also work to make ends meet in the household, even if they have a partner to assist them. We struggle with some form of mental health. And I think that people don't recognize that because it's been so normalized. But what I want to touch on is, and what the direction that I want to go is, when we don't acknowledge that we're struggling as women, we will start to see the effects in our bodies.
Ooh.
When you see women who are struggling, and I learned this some years ago, when we hear that women are struggling with things like fibroids, that's from the stressors that we hold on to in our lives. Wow. Any of those sometimes, like, I think they call them like uterine problems that we struggle with.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Black women.
So
when we struggle with that, I think they call it like uterine problems of some sort, like fibroids.
Yes. Uterine fibroids, yes.
Yes, uterine fibroids. When you see that women are struggling with that, one of the things I learned from a doctor who specializes in fibroids is that it's because we're holding so much in. We're not getting out the things that we need to get out. And so one of the things that I did learn is that Black women struggle with fibroids at a higher rate than any other race. And that is because what she related it to was we hold in everything. We have to be the strong person all the time.
All the time.
That's not healthy. True. That's not healthy at all.
I'm guilty.
We all are guilty.
I'm guilty. I am guilty. So if you have women that don't want to, because you have some women that's not privy to going to get a therapist, or then on top of that, they don't want to discuss it with family or friends. So what advice can you give for them to get that out?
So my number one advice is always going to be, if you can get a therapist, and they are making it a lot easier. They being, that there's a lot of different places you can go to get a therapist. I always tell people, if you have insurance, especially through a job, don't forget to use your EAP. That is important. So I always will, number one, encourage people to go talk to a therapist. If you're struggling, I don't care what it is. It can be something that you feel is very small. If you're struggling with adjustment to something that's happening in your home, in your life, go talk to somebody. But let's just say there's somebody out there that can't go and do that. Can't go talk to a therapist for whatever reason. They can't afford it. They don't have a job. They don't have EAP. And I would like to discuss EAP a little bit more in just a second. I would suggest journaling. You have to have an outlet to get the things that are inside out. Right. If you've ever heard of people who struggle with sleeping at night because their mind is so busy, yes, I can give you a little tip. There's something called brain dumping. So before you go to sleep at night, if you have a journal, every thought that comes to your head for the next, let's say 15, 20 minutes, write it down on one piece of paper. You can write it sideways, up and down, crisscross, however. It's called brain dumping.
Brain dumping. Wow. Never heard of that. That's a good one. So let me reiterate. So before you go to, let me make sure I understand. So before you go to bed at night, jot it
Yes.
down, talk it into a recorder or what have you, and leave it there.
Leave it there.
And that's how it should.
That's how it
Okay.
should work. But going back to journaling, that's one thing that can help. Another something else that can help is if you find yourself needing to get some things out. I'm a woman of faith, so I'm always going to say pray. You need to be able to talk out loud and say things.
Yeah,
Do not
that
hold
works.
it in.
That does work for me, to just talk it out loud, because I'm a loner. People may not believe this, but I am a loner. Okay.
That's hard to believe.
I know. People don't believe. I am such. It's called. I don't know. It's not an introvert. It's not an extrovert. It's not an omnivert. It's a something vert. But I'm a loner, and people that really know me knows that I when I'm going through something, you will not hear from me at all, right? And so when I'm not being Miss Shun C and I'm just all those other names, like my nickname, people from my hometown know me as, I just like to be by myself. And there you go, beautiful. There you go. So I just like to be by myself. And so people find that hard to believe, but I'm the baby of 8, but I'm a loner.
Yeah.
I can go to the party by myself. I can go to church by myself. I can go anywhere by myself, and I don't mind it. I love it.
So it's tough for people who really struggle with being alone because you don't have that outlet.
Yeah, that is true. That is
and
true.
The other thing I was going to say is, so if you're journaling, brain dumping, you also want to utilize those people around you.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is, but okay. So, and this is not about the Shun show. It's not about me but I do. What about people that have a problem? Like I have an issue with letting things out and just being especially when I'm going through something emotionally. I have a hard time getting those things out to people, and I just rather cry it out by myself or shout it out by myself. I don't want nobody to see that. So is that a bad thing? Which I'm sure it is.
I wouldn't say that's a bad thing. I would say that that's something you definitely should work on. What happens
that I need to work on?
Yes. Let's say we'll use you and I hurt your feelings. I said something you didn't like, and home to cry out. At some point, you would need to revisit with
Pardon me, guys. Hold on, Simone. I need to go off screen for a minute, okay? But keep talking.
Okay. At some point, you have to come back to me and speak to me and let me know and communicate that this is something that I said that hurt your feelings. And here's why. When you hold things in, the people that may have done something to you, they don't know. And what we're expecting to happen is we're expecting them to read our minds.
True.
We're expecting them to know that you were hurt from something that was said. How can I know if I didn't tell me?
But let me ask this question. So, and I do understand that if somebody have hurt you, somebody have wronged you in some type of way, that you need to express that. But what if, it's that same person and then, they, you're scared that they're going to come across as, like disregard your feelings or be dismissive. How do you handle that? I mean, even in men and women, how do you handle that? Because I got a few of those that I need to get off my chest.
So you can't change people. That's something, it sounds like maybe in your life, trying to change those people and make them be maybe more empathetic or sympathetic towards you and your feelings. You can only voice how you feel, hear the other person out. If they choose not to change, then I am a firm believer in creating boundaries And sometimes you have to allow people, or you have to love people from a distance. Is basically what I'm saying.
Okay.
So I don't. I can love you, but I don't have to continue to interact with you over and over again. Because one for me, one thing I'm not going to do is allow you to hurt me. You have probably once or twice, and I may just give you one. And if I talk it over with you and you're continuing to do the same thing over and over again, I'm going to assume that you don't care, because I expect you to fix it. That's my expectation once we have that conversation.
So that brings me to my next concern, and that's mental health in our Black men. I have seen, that's a big one, and this is, I have seen where, and don't get me wrong, whether you're Black, white, green, Chinese, Japanese, Asian, whatever the case, everybody goes through trauma, right? And I've seen it to where, when that Black man doesn't get the proper therapy that he needs, just like anybody else, but it starts to trickle over into relationships, friendships, a lot of ships, okay, for that matter. And in your, since you've been, dealing with mental health and clinical therapy, what do you see? Why is that? Because let me say this too. Don't get me wrong. Men need self-care too. I'm a self-care advocate. And how do they, and I try to solicit some of my men to come on today, but a few of them didn't want to do that. And I respect that.
I would have loved to talk to them.
I would love to. I mean, and if there's some men that's on now or that's listening, please let me know. I can send you a link so that you can chime in, because I really want to hear from a Black man's point of view, the day-to-day challenges on mental health and how it affects them day to day. Just driving down the road, not knowing if something goes wrong, if the cop pulled them up, just anything. What can you share? Something that you may have seen or experienced just on Black men and mental health?
Absolutely. So we first have to, as a community, so let me say this, like you were saying, you could be Black, you could be Asian, you could be the communities that are seen as minorities really struggle with mental health. You don't see it or hear it a lot in like Asian communities or Hispanic communities. It's kind of a taboo subject, similar to how it is in our community. I do have to say that I see a lot more men talking about their mental health more than we did in recent years.
Right.
But we still have a long way to go, because like you said, you tried to get some men to come today, and they were like, no, I'm not doing that.
Right. And they were saying, like, a couple of them said, well, that's not really a subject that I can really, talk about, blah, blah, blah. And in actuality, it is. Because believe it or not, and like I said, it's nothing against, because I have friends that are all nationalities, but I know what my Black men go through, and I know that they can speak on it on a daily. First and foremost, the stressor, these stressors, that they deal with, such as racism, discrimination, stereotypes, mass incarceration, police brutality, just that alone.
Absolutely.
Just that alone is mental. It affects your mental health, a Black man's mental health. And then them having to be, the man in the relationship, or the man in the marriage, or the man of the house, all of that. So
yeah,
I just wish that a lot of and I do, and maybe I don't know the percentage, but there's been a lot of I've encountered a lot of Black men that's like, oh, what therapy can do for me? Therapy they can't tell me nothing. What a therapist gonna tell me? They get paid to do that. But okay, so if they feel like that, who can they talk to? Or who do they? What can you give us? Can you shed some light on that?
Absolutely. So I was actually, as we're talking, looking up the statistics. So these are statistics 20, because I think that there is a thought process that Black men don't struggle with mental health, or we're not allowed to share that we struggle anyway. That's the thought process. But in 2020, suicide was the third leading cause of death for Black people and African Americans. The ages range from 15 to 24. That is huge. That's pretty big.
That's big.
That's big. So I think that when we talk about mental health in Black men, we have to start from a very early age and teaching our Black men how to express themselves.
Yes.
Because that's important. And if I can learn, let's just say I was a Black man, if I could express myself, or if I was given permission to express my sadness or my frustration in a healthy way.
Yes.
Then when I become 24, 34, 54, 44, I can talk about what it is that I need to talk about.
Right.
To my wife, to my girlfriend, to my mom, to my dad, to my uncles and aunts and whoever, cousins. I'm then allowed to express myself in the appropriate way. But sometimes, and most times, Black men are not given permission to do that.
Right. So when that young boy becomes 45, 50, and 60 years old, what can be done at that point, if anything? I mean, like, I know a plethora of men that I know that's dealing with childhood trauma or past trauma, for that matter, whether it be past relationships, past hurt, past whatever. At that age, what can be done? Can anything be done? How can they be reached to get the help that they need, though?
So let me say this first. Similar to what I said about Black women struggling with fibroids, and I use the example of fibroids because I know that is very prevalent in the community. But really, this can be applied to Black men and women, what I'm about to say. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, these are things that stem from stressors in our lives. It's not that high blood pressure and high cholesterol are hereditary. It's that we don't know how to deal, and not everybody. I want to make that clear. I'm not saying every single Black person. I'm not putting this on. However, with community, we really, really struggle with mental health. And so because we struggle with these things, the result is cholesterol, high blood pressure, even cancer. So before I talk about what Black men can do in order to assist with mental health, Black women, go to therapy. Go talk to somebody. One of the things that I do know, one of the things that I know for sure is that works. That's why I'm a huge advocate for it. I promise you, you don't know how talking to somebody and being honest with a person who knows nothing about you can help you.
That is so true. That is
very
so
much
true.
So. And sometimes, let me say this, therapy can feel like, and this is the example that I like to use, therapy can feel like you're in the middle of the street and you're taking clothes off. It can feel like you are naked in the middle of the street.
Yes.
Because that's how vulnerable you feel when you get in there.
Yes.
It doesn't feel good. Let me say that. It doesn't feel good. But once you leave, every single time you go and leave, you feel better and better and better.
Because
Go ahead. Sorry.
And you're right, Simone, because it peels off a layer.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like it peels off a layer
Mm-hmm.
of that stress, of that
Mm-hmm.
something that you've been holding on to. And every time, because let me tell you something, I would tell you, I stay in therapy. I wish I had my therapist on speed dial,
Mm-hmm.
because you need, I mean, especially when somebody is unbiased to you or what you're going through, or what
Mm-hmm.
they don't know you from a can of paint. So they're not going to judge you. They're not there to, ridicule you or
Mm-hmm.
of, and to get that out, to cry it out. You know what I mean? I mean,
It feels good.
It does. Now, like you said, it doesn't feel good in the beginning because it's like, man, I'm telling you all of this. It makes you feel ashamed.
It does.
But it's good to get it out, and that's the one thing that I try to push. And maybe push is not the right word, but try to express to my Black men. Talk it out with somebody. Get the help that you need, because it's so important. When you drag that past hurt, that deep hurt around on you, it's like bags. It's literally like bag. It mentally, and what people don't realize too, Simona, and I know you can touch on this, is that when you suppress stress or when you suppress issues, it eats away. And like you said, it makes you sick. It can literally make you sick. And yes, like Ravine just said, ain't nothing like a good cry.
It does.
Believe it or not, I had one today. I had a good cry. Well, it might not have been a good cry, but it was a cry. You know what I mean? But after I got it all out, I was good. That is so true. And and as you know too, Simone, a lot of our men have been taught, you're not supposed to cry. What you crying for? When they were little. So that now they've learned a behavior that
Yes.
you're not supposed to cry. You're not supposed to show that. That's a negative emotion. So guess what they do?
Yes.
They suppress it.
Mm-hmm.
They suppress it. And I can't stress that enough. And when you got two people that's in a relationship that's suppressing stress, what does that equal? When it does come out, it's going to what pressure does. It bursts the pipe. So that's one of the things that I do try to.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: what other ways can Black men, handle mental health, stress, all of that? What are some ways? Help me with that? Did you hear me? Did I lose you, Simone?
Yes.
Did you hear me?
I think.
Oh, did I lose her?
It's like a ticking time bomb.
Oh, there you go. Okay, you're kind of lagging. I'm sorry, Simone. So
I use this. Absolutely.
I think we're lagging here. Simone, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Simone? Oh, there you go. Can you hear me? Maybe not. Uh-oh. Hold on one second.
Exercise is something, and this can go for men and women, but Black men. Yeah.
I can hear you. It's just lagging just a little bit.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. It's lagging, like minutes lagging.
Are you there?
I am.
Can you hear me?
Hold on.
Okay.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? No. Uh-oh.
Yes.
Pardon me, guys, for just. You can? Okay. If you can hear me, I don't know if I'm lagging behind, but can you was about to suggest some things that men can do that will help them in their day-to-day struggle with maybe mental health or stress. And you said exercise. Oh, maybe not. Bear with me just a moment.
I can hear you. It can be for a core. Exercising is that can out those whatever you're feeling, stressors, actually boxing, lifting weights. That can be a form of therapy. Sometimes men meet other men at the gym, build friendships. I think that that's something that is hard sometimes for men to do, is build genuine friendships where you can actually talk to other men about what you're experiencing.
Yeah.
But build friendships with other people so that you can really talk about what's going on in your life, because you would be surprised at how many people are experiencing the same thing that you are experiencing.
That is true. Then you have, and you know what? One thing that you just said is meeting other, friends at the gym, or men, people that meet each other at the gym and things like that. That's one thing that I think men can do better than women sometimes, because we as women, sometimes we have a hard time. I know me, trusting other women. That's just what it is. Now, one thing that I can say, which you being one of my daughter's friends, she has a close community when it comes to her friends. And I love that. I do. Like I said, I want her friends to be my friends, because, you guys are very close, and there's a bunch of you guys. And so that's one thing that I guess I'll say my generation, we have a hard time. We as Black women have a hard time sometimes befriending and trusting other women because of things that have transpired in our past.
Understood.
So I do see that, men can, come together a little bit better than what we can do. So that is a good thing. So what do you do, or what suggestions can you give when you have a man that, I'm going to give you a scenario. So when you have a gentleman that's in a marriage or a relationship, okay? And if both of them are dealing with trauma, because like I said, everybody has something in their past that they're dealing with. When you have two that's in a marriage, right? And or in a relationship, and both of them are dealing with trauma, something has to give. So what are some healthy suggestions can you, and I know you're not a relationship coach, I know that, but what are some suggestions that you can give for both parties? How can they both go through and work that out?
So I have had the privilege working with working in relationships with people who were struggling in their marriages and relationships. That came with not my current job, but my job that I was doing prior to being where I am now. It was a short period of time, but if somebody's struggling in a relationship with trauma, they're both struggling with trauma, I think that number one, they should start off by seeking help separately. It doesn't do any good to seek help together. Like I said in the very beginning, trauma can look different for everybody. Trauma can be as simple, or what most people would say is simple, as your parents divorcing, to as big as you being in an abusive relationship. That's the wide range of what trauma can look like. Or something as simple as moving away from your childhood friend when you were smaller, to again being in some type of abusive relationship, or the death of a parent, the death of a loved one, whatever. Trauma can range. And so you being in a relationship, not you specifically, but someone being in a relationship with another person who has never dealt with their trauma, can look very toxic.
Woo! Oh my God! I almost jumped out my chair. Okay.
And so if you don't go get the help, if the two of you don't go get the help that you need, you're not going to survive, or at least you shouldn't survive. You both probably should separate and go your separate ways. Hurt people. So all you're going to do is continue to hurt the other person. And it's tit for tat at this point. Let's see who can hit below the belt the hardest, basically.
Let me tell you something. Let me just piggyback off of that. That is so true. And that you're absolutely right. It becomes tit for tat, and it becomes toxic. And sometimes when you're dealing with somebody like that, it'll bring out
the worst
stuff that's in you that you thought that you had. You're absolutely right. You hit the nail.
Can I
right
say this? One thing I do know is when you experience something, it doesn't go away if you didn't deal with it. If you think about the dirt outside and you burying something, what do people do when they bury? They just put dirt on top of the thing that they're burying.
Right.
It doesn't go away. It's still going to be there. You go 10 years, 30 years later, and you start digging at it. And you never know, by the way, when somebody's going to dig at something that you've experienced. If you've been gone to get the help, they start digging at it. And then all of a sudden, you're triggered because that's what it's called. And yes, that's what it's called. You're now triggered. And so now that you're triggered, you're acting out.
And you know what? So now we're about to get into something a little deep. I like this. So, so when you've expressed to a person, whether it be, just your friend girl or your friend guy or your significant other, that, hey, let's not do X, Y, and Z when we are disagreeing, such as using profanity or because that takes me to a place that I don't want to go. It's a trigger for me. And that particular person continuously disregard that request. What do you do? I mean, I already know what to do, but how do you handle that? Like in a without, like James Brown said, without me coming out of me. So what do you do? Like, do you constantly say, hey, that's a trigger for me. Hey, that's a trigger for me. Or do you walk away? What do you do?
I am a firm believer in never telling people what to do in their relationships unless it's they're in, what am I trying to say? Lost my train of thought. Unless it is, like I said, abusive earlier, unless it's an abusive relationship. Abuse can be physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in a nutshell. So in that case, I am a firm believer in telling people, get away, leave, don't come back. But if you're struggling with someone and they're continuing to trigger you, sometimes the trigger is about us. Now, if they're cursing at you, that's a different story, and you have to decide whether you want to leave or stay. We do have to remember that sometimes our triggers are more about us than the other.
Yes, you said something.
Okay.
You said sometimes our triggers are what?
Sometimes our triggers are more about us than it is about the other person.
Oh, can you unpack that?
Yes. So let's say my trigger is, like you said, cursing at me, because when I was younger, a parent cursed at me constantly. That was the relationship in a nutshell, was my parent cursing at me. Because of this, I am now triggered when people being my significant other curses at me because he wants me to do something, because he's mad at me, whatever the case may be. I am now triggered. Right. So what I would then need to do is I would need to go seek help about my trigger. Now what the real issue is, now I'm not saying he's not wrong. He's absolutely wrong.
Right.
But now I need to go and unpack with my therapist why it is that I am so triggered and what that looks like for me. Because now I haven't dealt with the abuse of my parents. And that's really what the root of the issue is. I haven't dealt with the abuse of my parent. And so now every time he uses a curse word at me, I explode. And now we're both in each other's faces. And now we're cursing each other down to the ground. And it ends up being a very volatile situation. So sometimes when we have to change, because we cannot change other people. It can never happen. It will never happen. We are not the people to change. We are not the person to change the other person. So if we start to do the work on ourselves, then one of two things that have got to happen. The other person will see that and they will have to start doing work on themselves, or we grow so much apart that we are not going to be able to sustain in the same household.
Okay.
It's just not going to happen.
And I like Mike's response. He said, if it's heating up, you can't go grab gasoline and a match.
Right.
Somebody got to cool off.
Yes.
And you just really shine some light on some stuff because like something that you said that if what that person did triggered that person or me or whomever to act in a certain way, I need to go.
You need to go and unpack and figure out why.
Wow.
And I'm saying this because I don't want it to seem like I'm just like therapy. Therapy. But I do believe that we have to be honest, and we being just, whether it be human beings, Black people, we have to be honest and really, and I mean gut wrenching honest about the fact that we have spent many decades not talking, down to when somebody called your house and they told you that you better not, I don't care if it was the bill collector or whomever, you don't, back in the day, you don't tell anybody who is home or she's not here. If they call asking for your mom, she's not here. Like, even that set precedence to us not telling people what's going on in our lives.
Right.
You don't tell nobody what's going on in this household. And because of that, we have kind of taken it, and generations after generations have really used it to not speak about what's happening in their lives. We are making ourselves sick. And this is why I want whomever is listening to understand, because I'm very serious about this. This is why I am stressing talking to somebody and getting help. I don't care if you talk to your primary care doctor. Black men, go to the doctor and get your yearly checkups and get your prostate exams and all. That's a whole nother conversation for another day. But truthfully, go and talk to somebody, because what has happened is we have made ourselves sick. We are making ourselves sick because we are not talking it out with our loved ones. We're not talking it out with our friends. We are just going along with life as if everything is okay, when really on the inside we are breaking.
What? That is, oh my God, that is so true. And like you said, and it's showing up in so many ways. It's showing up in ways and in areas that it shouldn't be. And something that you said made a lot of sense, because if it's in you, that whatever you've been through is in you.
It's in you.
But if you allow another person or a situation to bring it back out of you, then the issue may not be that person. The issue may lie in the one that said, okay, well, you triggered me. When in all actuality, that person with the trigger should have just walked away, because they were supposed to be healed and have dealt with that trauma. Am I right?
So if somebody is struggling with something and they allow somebody triggered them, like I'm all for giving yourself grace. Like if I've done the work on myself, I've gone to therapy, or I have PS myself and I've said, hey, this right here triggers me, and you still trigger me, and I get out of character, and whatever that looks like, I am all for telling people it's okay. Give yourself grace, rectify the situation. Don't beat yourself up, because healing, for those people who don't know, is a lifetime situation.
Yeah.
We are not going to, in 2 years or 3 years, we're not going to heal. That's not how that works. We can get better. We can start to feel better and learn how to work through our triggers.
That's true. And I'm gonna tell you something. Like when people, let me tell you what bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
It bothers me when people say, "Oh, it don't bother me." Let me rephrase that.
Mm-hmm.
I had to rethink when I said, "Oh, you got to heal so you won't take baggage. You're gonna always have baggage. I don't care who you are, but the healing that you've done
Mm-hmm.
even though that person, you may have baggage when you go into a relationship, because that's the inevitable, especially when you get older. You're gonna always have baggage. You're gonna always, there ain't no way around that. You know what I'm saying? Unless you're 10 and 12 and 13, 14, but you still have baggage because you may have childhood trauma.
Exactly.
So my point is this: when you have healed and got the proper healing from that trauma, from that baggage that you bring, it hits different when you see it. You understand does that make sense what I'm saying?
It does. Let me tell you why it hits different, because now I know how to deal with it. And that's what I mean by we're always learning and unlearning how to do life. We're always learning and unlearning how to do life. So if I have, let's say I've experienced some things when I was younger, that when I'm older now, in my 30s or 40s or 50s and 60s and so on and so forth, I'm now struggling. If I've struggled with it, but I have done the work on myself, the only difference between then and now is that I know how to work through it. I still might cry, I still might get angry, but my anger looks different now. Right. I'm not screaming, hollering, and yelling and rolling around on the ground.
There you go.
But now it looks different. Like I now know that maybe when I get angry, I need to take a step back first. I think somebody in the comments said it, cool off, and then revisit the situation. I may not in the moment scream, holler, and curse.
Right. Okay. Mm-hmm. Wow. This was so good, Simone. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your professionalism and your knowledge, that hard work in school and all of the stuff that you've done to get, to where you are.
Yes.
This was therapy for me today. Let me just say this. It was therapy for me today. And
happy to have been here.
Some of the things that you said, it hit home. And so and I appreciate that. So if people, where can people find you? Now, let me ask you this. Do you do life coaching outside of your work?
So that's two separate things. So two things. If anybody knows anybody who's struggling with addiction, feel free. I'm going to give my social medias out. You can feel free to contact me there, because I have resources. As we know, addiction, opioids especially, are really running rampant in the communities. But also life coaching is separate. That's my own separate thing. And I'm working on a few other things, like becoming a fully licensed therapist. We have, fortunately or unfortunately, after school, we have more things that we have to do in order to get to where we need to go.
Right.
But life coaching is my certificate. I have my certificate. I took my classes for that, and I am a certified life coach, and that is separate. If you're looking for something like that, again, hit me up on my social medias, because I will be definitely willing to help.
And can you provide your social handles, please?
I can. So my current Instagram, K Simone, and that's Simone's Ymone. That's my Instagram. My TikTok is, let's see. Oh Lord, the same thing. Hello K Simone. But I would rather you all just reach out to me on my Instagram. It's Hello K Simone again. And I can provide my personal number and we can talk from there, or my email address. And we can talk on there via email or by cell. And I can connect you I can put you in the right direction, connect you with the right people. I don't mind doing that.
All right. Well, Simone, thank you so much. Of course, I am Miss Shun C. You can find me everywhere, MSSHUNC on everything. And you can follow the podcast, MSC Media Podcast, on all social handles. This has been a really, really, really good conversation today.
Yes.
I do appreciate your knowledge. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. August is also National Black Business Month, so I will be highlighting Black businesses, and that's why I wanted you to share yours, Simone, because
Thank you.
business. And if anybody needs to get in touch with Simone, you're more than welcome. Anybody have some ideas or whatever that wants to come onto the show, most of you guys know how to reach out to me. Again, thank you. I always want to leave with an encouraging word. And my motto and what I always live by is help some others along the way so that your living is not in vain. Again, Simone, thank you so much.
You are welcome.
We may be bringing you back.
Listen, I was just going to say, please bring me back so we can talk about many other topics.
Yes.
But I would love to come back.
Thank you so much. And guys, thank you for being patient with us with our technical difficulties on my end. So I do appreciate that. Shout out to Shavanti, Mike, Robert, Keishelle, Ezzy, and my guy Ezra Benjamin. He has the Ezzy B show. I'm not sure if it's still on Wednesdays, but he has the Ezzy B show. He has great content as well. Ezzy, me and you have to collaborate on some things. Jam and Jay, my boy, you always support me. You always have. Thank you guys so much. And if I missed anybody, I do apologize. I think I saw Ashley earlier, but thank you guys so much for tuning in. We have another great show next Thursday at 7 p.m. So make sure that you all are tuned in. It for the MSC Media Show tonight. Everybody have a great evening. Simone, you stay put, okay?